great privilege to introduce you to our speaker today. And I met Reverend Margo at the Spiritual Living Center there, and years ago. And then when they were doing a fair, she had beautiful, different style of artistry of these different cups and different things that they just made me feel, it's magical. It was just magical. All the fun, all of her fun sculptures. They're very creative. But she's always been a very gifted medium, she takes, though she's so whimsical and she's so fun, but you can tell, it's just spirit, energy just integrated within her. And her work is theory, they keep saying seriously dedicated to bringing that light and love of the spirit and of God into everything she does. It just shines through, as I wrote on the Facebook, introducing her as our speaker this week. And there's so much love that comes through her. Margo entered the spiritual path after receiving sporadic messages in 1983 in Boulder, Colorado, that her teaching career was complete and it was time to add spirituality to her life. Plus, she would be moving. Her mother's poor health brought her to San Diego, and her mother's transition established her back to living in San Diego and taking classes from spiritualist teachers and science of mind teachers. They're now called the Spiritual Living Centers, but it is the Ernest Holmes teachings. They're very beautiful that I use in classes and some of the lectures too. She was ordained at Fraternal Spiritualist Church in 1995. Her spiritual path has taken her to Russia and Mexico to teach workshops. And she currently speaks at spiritualist churches as well as Center for Spiritual Living. She has had ongoing classes called Saturdays with the Angels for 19 years at Universal Spirit Center. She recently identified herself as an explorer of divine love, joy, peace, and abundance, believing that God can never be stagnant, and it isn't our destiny to be stuck or stagnant either. We are here to expand and stretch to unseen vibrations, to luxuriate in intimacy with the divine. Let's welcome warmly, please, Reverend Margo Alora.
I love that last sentence, don't you?
Yes.
I love that, I think, on the way here driving. Luxuriate in intimacy with the divine. Woo! Okay. So I was feeling very good this morning, and y'all were saying this is a good morning. There's a lot of energy here, and I walked in. And I so appreciate the bowls. I so appreciate how it facilitates us. So, I write talks because that seems like what you're supposed to do, but I don't necessarily read them. But it gives me some ideas of how to interact with you. And I love the way, because first I write by hand, because that works for me, and then I typed it out. But each time I put in, good morning, I'm happy to be back with you. And that's the truth. That feels authentic to me. Okay, here we go. I'm going to start out with the name of my talk. And this is for anyone that's over age 3. You got it made? Because it's about aging as a spiritual practice. And I believe that, as soon as you enter this earth plane, you have intelligence. You're growing, you're expanding. And about age, then you get the words, and then you start interacting with your own culture. So that's why I said this is for about age 3 and up. So we're talking about aging as a spiritual practice. So I realized I was going to be talking this week, and I asked my guidance, where do I go? What do you want to share? And they said that, aging as a spiritual practice. And that's all they said. And I'm very auditory. I don't mean that I hear the words aging as, but I get it auditory. So then I got to open up, like, okay, what now? And what they suggested is that I go into my office and that I find a book. Now, my office, as Anne-Marie will tell you, it's not organized with books like all the A books and then all the B books and all the C books. That's not the way my books are. They're put in groups of something. And so thank God, I just relaxed and went, okay, there's a book in here. I'll find it, or they'll find it for me. My guidance will let me find it. And I did. And you know the name of the book? Aging as a Spiritual Practice. Now, that's just like giving me a little star or a little nudge. Like, Margo, we're with you. This is a good subject to talk about. Here, let's go over this together. So, I got the book. And I'm going to tell you. I started reading it and I thought it was new. And I looked partway through and I read some of it already. But I think I read it for a class. So I found specifics, But I looked and thought, uh-oh, this is my handwriting. Uh-oh, I have read this before. So they brought some of it to me, again. So, aging as a spiritual practice. Now, we are taught, and I believe a limited definition of age. I'm 2, and then I'm 4, and then, you add your age. But this book shows that there's a Buddhist definition. So horizontal age is when you add your ages, when you're time. But vertical is when you stay in the moment. And that's a time. And each of you have experienced vertical time when you meditate, when you pray, when you are listening to the bowls and doing your meditation today. That's vertical. You're staying right here. And if your mind, veers off, you sort of bring it back. This is right here. So what they say is we have horizontal time, add the years, and then we have vertical time where you're here right now. Now, when I give messages, I shouldn't speak for other people, but when I give messages, I have to be here. I can't go into the future and ask for a message for you. I don't want to go into the past, but as I stay right here with the divine, that's when we get the messages. And that's also when you're there, when you have openings. Because if you're in horizontal, you know what the past gave you, and you like it. You know your past, and you know what you want. But you're not necessarily open, because you got that past and you got the future you want. But when you're in vertical, when you're right here, right now, you're quiet, and possibilities can open. So When I'm talking about aging as a spiritual practice, I'm talking about using your vertical time as well as your horizontal. Out of my talk, I wrote down, vertical is where we go to when we give messages, and where we are not focused on going out into horizontal. I'm not here to go there. I'm here to stay here. Now, how does this really pertain to spirituality and to aging? So I'm going to give you talks, I'm going to give you examples. I'm going to share my friends with you. And the ones I'm going to share with you have all made their transition. And how does that fit in with aging spiritually? What I've experienced as I've aged horizontally is that some people knew when they were going to transition and some didn't. I hope this doesn't sound harsh. It is a belief I have, and I'm just offering it. I believe we don't make our transition until it's time to, and when we do, it's time to. If somebody's made their transition, they were spiritually, soulfully ready. Does that make sense to you? Now, it's not so easy in the human world, is it? And I'm going to give you examples of some of my friends that left. It was like, "Argh!" But I also know that spiritually, soulfully, they were complete. So my first friend I'd like to share with you, her name is Gloria. And I knew her since she was in 5th grade and I was in the 6th grade. And she came from a big family in El Cajon. And they have enough to eat, but there wasn't a lot of money. And she wanted to dance. But her mind said, whoa, how can I be a dancer? Nobody in my family is a dancer. We don't have a lot of money. But her heart and her soul said dance. So she did. She practiced and she successfully was in Starlight Opera. I don't know if you know what that is, but it used to be something. It was an outside opera and people got to dance, and particularly young people got to dance. It was a very big honor. So she was a dancer there. She was such a natural leader that in El Cajon High School, where we went, as a junior, not a senior, but a junior, she was head of pom-poms. And since then, nobody else has got that honor until they were a senior. As a senior, she was, what do they call it, queen? Homecoming queen. Yeah. Then she came to San Diego State after I did, and she was very successful, which in her family, it was a little unusual. Other people were not as academic, you might say, so she did that. And then she married her high school sweetheart, and they had a little boy. So her life was, you might say, full of accomplishments. And not like, I'm better. There was nothing I ever experienced from her like, I'm better than you. That just wasn't there. However, there were accomplishments. And then came something that our society is a lot more familiar with now, and that was breast cancer. And that was in the late 60s. And then we didn't have a lot of skills and a lot of medical stuff to know what to do. And she made the transition. Now, as she did, because I don't remember how many months it was, but a lot of months, she kept on gathering grace. And if people came to her, like, what about your 5-year-old son? She, I don't know her exact words, but her essence was, I love him, he loves me, God is the divine. She stayed into essence. She didn't stay so much in the horizontal time like, oh, I'm going to die and then I'll disappear. She stayed into her own essence, and at 30, she made her transition. Just a complete side for that. As she did that, I was 31, I was unhappily married. He was a good man, and I'm a good woman, but it wasn't working. So after 10 years. So, because I could feel her beauty, I could feel her completion of life, I started wondering, and I said, you know, Margo, what's going on here? Life is shorter than I did, knew possible. And I actually started looking at separating from my husband, and he was definitely thinking the same thing. So it was like we used her life essence to look at our own and realize we need paths were changing, and we took different paths. So Gloria did something for me, even in her passing. She helped me realize that the soul comes here for a reason. I'm not really into, you came to learn lessons. We do. But then let's learn from them and let's do something with it. And then give and take. And she did all that. And then she was complete. So her completion at 30 affected many of us. I believe, as I was telling you, that transition is when the soul is complete with the experience of being human. That's, I think, the key. We don't live just to grow old. We don't live to get just lessons. We live to have lessons to learn from them and expand and to add to our lives. So that means expand and get all we can from what we have. Sometimes we get a heads up on when we're going to transition like Gloria did. And then my friend had another experience. And she was 37, and she and her fiance were driving in the Colorado mountains where we all live. Well, I lived in Boulder, Mountains. But they were on a pass, and they were going to go see her sister. And she had called her sister that morning, even though they were going to be there in a number of hours. And they talked a whole hour. They were on the pass. He hit a patch of ice, flipped the car around. They were facing the other way, and she broke her neck. How quickly we can make a transition. So she had a memorial of about 200 people. And the overall statement was, she gave to life and received from life. She dwelled on that which was working for her and others. And she absolutely turned her back on what wasn't working or who was unkind to her. There was somebody that was unkind to her. She turned her back on that to the light, to the divine. And as she made her transition, she was complete. Now, that doesn't mean that many of us didn't cry, because it was quick and it was unplanned. However, if you get below that kind of shock, you get into, she was complete with her human experience. She grew old, which was up to 37, spiritually. We're spiritual beings having spiritual experiences of being human. We came to learn and grow with our experiences, not to become the experience. I had to learn that one. I think we all do it different ways. So if we have an experience, let's get the pearl out of it, and then let's throw it in the past. Let's don't take it with us. Does that make sense to you? Whatever has happened, it's not an I am, it is I experienced. Recently I had a little, I'm not sure what to call it. I will figure it out later, maybe. 1999, I had a mastectomy, and it was a big cancer experience. And not Universal, First Spiritualist was very, very supportive of me and all that. And then since then, cancer has not been something I think about or do about. I might counsel somebody about it, but cancer was complete. It is complete. April, I got a mammogram, and a little tiny, I called it a booger, showed up in my left breast. So when I talk about things are complete. So anyway, I thought about this. I was shocked. I was like, what? Anyway, I had this tiny experience of cancer, and I had a great young surgeon, and it turned out it was called 1A, which is very minute, and mostly important was there was no lymph node involvement. So she went in, she took it out, it's complete. Now, I could have said, I have cancer again. I learned a long time ago, you don't use that I have, you say you experience it, right? And then what was working for me better was to just to consider that maybe I was helping the surgeon. And she did her little, very formal medical stuff. I kept on smiling at her and informing her a little differently. After the surgery, she said, now the protocol is for you to go get radiation. And I looked at her and I said, there's nothing to radiate. No, thank you. She writes down, patient refuses. Then she said, well, I'm sending you to the oncologist. And I looked at her and I said, no, you're not. Not like this, but it's like, no. Think again. That's not what's happening here. That's not what's happening for me. And I could see this, I don't want to say aggression, but maybe assertiveness. And this is what you're going to do next what you could feel is my spiritual awareness. It was an experience, it was rather shocking. It was quickly and is quickly complete. And I believe that we age spiritually. Actually, the surgeon likes me because she's young and she, I don't know, she can see that I'm not against her, but perhaps there's different ways to look at things. And I like her. I called her Top Gun Surgeon. Okay. So tomorrow I'm officiating at a memorial for my friend. And I was talking about your I am, or your what you own. And what I'm going to say about her tomorrow is that she was a way shore. And her I amness was that she looked at life and she made it work. She was very into spirituality, and she was also Catholic. And, sometimes people would say, well, it's hard to be into spirituality and Catholic, you've got to just be religious. But she was making it work, and she wrote something called a New Age rosary. And seven of us did this monthly for, I believe, 10 years. So she was a way shower, and I believe she still is a way shower. But spiritually, as we age, we can expand, and we can create, and we can be creative. So I urge each of you to grow old at whatever age you are. Pay attention to your challenges and what you learn and what you leave behind and what you want to expand. It's not a lockstep program here. Develop your life from guidance from your higher self and your intimacy with God and your angels and your guides. Be of service in whatever way puts fire in your belly and a smile on your face. Selectively listen to guidance from others, whether it's a doctor or somebody in your family. I mean, I listened to her. I just didn't do what she said, but I listened. and I think that's good. Because, anyway, live from your heart and let your brain deliver the ways you live. Heart first, and your heart is the closest to your soul. I'd like to talk about one more person. My friend had a 3-day-old baby that made her transition, and I met her years later. She said that when she and her husband found out they were pregnant, they were so excited. They named the baby, and they talked to her every day. And life was so good and full of love. 3 days after the baby was born, her heart and her lungs didn't function well enough. And she made her transition. People came in with such, that's wrong. Well, where was God? You didn't get to love her long enough. I mean, they came in with some, I guess you'd call them judgment, right? So she asked me for a reading from Amy as the baby. So I came to Amy and I asked, what's going on? Where are you? And she said, I felt loved from the second of inception. They talked to me all the time, and I could just feel the love, and it was oozing in and out. And life was beautiful. I felt love for the 3 days when I came out of her abdomen. And there I was, breathing. I felt love. Who's to say that it would be better if I felt love longer? I was supposed to live. I was supposed to have love for 25 years or 5 years. I felt loved. And I am content and full of love now. Something to think So I've shared with you about looking or experiencing aging differently. Looking at transitioning differently. And focusing on the guidance of your heart. Aging is normal and natural. How we do it is up to us. It's up to us. We're holding hands with God, igniting fire in our bellies, and there's no limits to how we spiritually experience the human existence. Thank you.